Larry Fink, the CEO of the trillion-dollar investment firm BlackRock, is turning heads yet again. He made some comments at the World Economic Forum that are controversial to say the least. Wait until you see what he's predicting for humanity's future.
I could argue in the developed countries, the big winners are countries that have shrinking populations. Okay, that's something that most people never talked about. You know, we always used to think shrinking population is a cause for negative growth. But in my conversations with the leadership of these large developed countries that have xenophobic immigration policies, they don't allow anybody to come in, shrinking unemployment, shrinking demographics, these countries will rapidly develop robotics and AI and technology. And if the promise, I didn't say it's going to happen, but if the promise of all that transforms productivity, which most of us think it will, we'll be able to elevate the standard of living of countries and the standard of living of individuals, even with shrinking populations. And so the paradigm of negative population growth is going to be changing. And the social problems that one will have in substituting humans for machines is going to be far easier in those countries that have declining populations. And so for those countries that have rising populations, the answer will be education, and so rapidly developing. You know, for those countries that do not have a foundation of rule of law or education, they're going to be left. That's where the divide's going to get more and more extreme. And unfortunately.
So there you have it. We have a rather stark clash of visions here. Larry Fink seems to be just fine with population decline, whereas Elon Musk sees population decline as a threat to human civilization itself. Or perhaps they're not in disagreement. Larry Fink appears to think it's perfectly fine to replace humans with machines. And in fact, he actually had to backtrack a bit and clarify what he was saying because it appeared rather obvious and wickedly so in what he was saying. He had to come out and say, no, I'm not saying that I want a future where machines replace humans. That's not what I said. But you heard it yourself. I mean, population decline is a good thing. And it's a good thing because that means we have to rely more on machines, more on AI, on robots. And machines and AI and robots are far easier to manage than human populations. I think it was a pretty straightforward argument. And it fits right in line with how our globalist managerial elite are basically inverting human life in society. So, for example, historically, human populations tend to thrive in warmer weather, right? I mean, virtually all anthropologists that I'm familiar with have all recognized that humans throughout our history have lived in warm or at least warmer climates. Human populations tend to thrive in warmer weather. We are now dealing with a ruling managerial elite, probably the very first generation ever, who are telling us that we all should want the exact opposite. We should all actively be engaged in cooling the weather. I mean, think about it. We've never had a generation say that before, that we should all want a cooler environment. In a similar vein, what we're seeing here is our globalist elites actually claiming that what was always a bad population decline is now actually a good. In other words, our ruling elite want a colder planet with less people on it. I mean, let's just be blunt here. This would be a far better world, according to them, if it were colder with far less people on it. It's beyond insane. And the concern that we all have, of course, is we all know how much influence and power organizations like BlackRock have over our politicians, right? We now know, thanks to James O'Keefe's bombshell hidden video exposing all the inner workings, particularly of BlackRock, we now know that you could basically buy a politician for as little as $10,000. Moreover, we now know that one of the primary ways BlackRock buys off politicians is through insider trading information. We talk about this a lot on this channel. There's a little-known trading secret among the experts, the insiders, that you always track what corporate CEOs are doing with their own company's stock. So if they're buying up a bunch of their own company's stock, that must mean that they just had a board meeting that produced numbers for an amazing sales quarter. So their stock is going to surge as soon as they report those numbers. So all these CEOs are positioning themselves to profit from that surge. But of course, it works the other way. If we see these CEOs dumping their company's stock, then you know they had a bad quarter and they're bailing out before the stocks tank once word gets out. So what this guy revealed on hidden camera is that BlackRock gives that kind of information to politicians before the sales reports are publicly announced so they can buy or sell accordingly. Now, the irony here is that you and I actually have access to that very same insider information. Thanks to a little-known SEC database, we can see what and when these CEOs are buying up in real time as well. And not only that, we get to actually piggyback on their trades to gain the same advantage for ourselves, but of course, without being bribed like the crooks in DC. Gang, that's why you have got to click on the link below and sign up for a free training with me and my good friend, Ross Givens. It's this Thursday, May 23rd, 3 p.m. Eastern. That's May 23rd, 3 p.m. Eastern. Ross is an insider trading expert whose recommendations have led to investment returns of nearly 1,500%. It's going to be absolutely amazing free training where you and I can learn how to trade with the exact same insider knowledge as these politicians, but legally and ethically. But don't wait. Seating registration is limited, so click on that link below right now. Register today, and I'll see you for an event this Thursday, 3 p.m., that promises to change your life. So what does Elon Musk think of all of this? Well, as I'm sure you know, the Tesla founder and mega billionaire has warned that the current demographic winter that much of the West population is experiencing has catastrophic consequences for the future of civilization, saying that civilization will indeed crumble if people don't have more children. In other words, machines might be productive, but machines don't produce civilization, right? Human civilization requires humans. And the irony is that machines come from human civilization. So once again, the calculus is simple. No human civilization, no machines. Right? I think the best you'll get is something like Mad Max, right? The Road Warrior, where a post-apocalyptic world simply becomes parasitic of the technologies developed before the apocalypse. No humans, no human civilization. No human civilization, no machines. To trivialize population decline is to undermine the very notion of societal progress that such trivialization supposedly evidences. Now, the good news is that we are seeing a civilizational renaissance, right? It's inextricably linked to a demographic renewal. As secular liberals have largely stopped having children, conservative patriot communities today are having more children than ever. Back in 2007, birth rates among rural populations were just 5% more than metro counties. That fertility advantage has surged to 14% today, a 300% increase in just over a decade. The University of London demographer Eric Kaufman has documented how in the United States, conservative evangelical women consistently exemplify a 30% fertility advantage over their secular counterparts. And this demographic deficit has dramatic effects over time. Demographers are estimating already that there will be over 300 million Mormons in the United States in just the next few decades, and they'll be followed by over 300 million Amish, all because of fertility rates. So literally in just decades from now, conservative patriots are on course to number over 1 billion in this nation alone. And we're already seeing the political effects of this. According to the demographer Philip Longman, Trump won in states that have a 12% higher fertility rate than in states that voted for Hillary Clinton back in 2016. So while the overall population of the West may be in a decline, the good news is that subpopulations, particularly conservative subpopulations, are on the ascent. Sorry, Larry, it's traditionalists, not technology, that will inherit the earth.